As we celebrate today the feast of Saints Simon and Jude, apostles, we don't know a whole lot about their lives. What tradition has told us is that after James the Lesser died, they were looking for someone to be the bishop of Jerusalem, and so they gathered together and they elected Simon to be the apostle of Jerusalem, the bishop, and then there was a word from the Lord that they needed to leave Jerusalem now, and so they all got out, and that's when Rome came and pretty much destroyed Jerusalem, and as they were in a small town called Pella, and then they went back afterwards, and then traveled throughout the world. Jude also traveled much of the world proclaiming the gospel of God, of Jesus Christ, and he wrote one of the letters that's in the New Testament. And it's summarized, or it's guessed that he's the patron of hopeless causes, because very much in his letter he's talking about this is a very struggling situation, but we can trust in God, look to God in the midst of all this. Then the tradition is that they were both in a Persian territory together when they were martyred on the same day. And so that's why we celebrate the two today, Simon and Jude. In any case, we look to our Lord and we know He has a plan for our lives. He's one day ahead of us. He knows all that's going to happen. He knows what our needs are. So often when we're in the midst of our trials and our concerns and our troubles and we're saying, well, I don't know what to do, we need to trust. God already knows what we need to do. We don't have to come up with a plan. Rather, we only have to find out what God's plan is, or at least do what God's plan is. And I look at Jesus in the gospel today. Before He calls the 12, what does He do? He goes up the mountain to pray. He spends the night in prayer. He's talking, He's communing with His Father. When He comes down, He knows the plan. So often we go off, well, I need to do some sort of action. Let's do it. Instead of going first to prayer and saying, God, what is your plan? What is it that you want to do? What is it that you have blessed so that I can then go and do what you're blessing? I'm remembering a talk by Venerable Fulton Sheen where he's talking about how he says the first words of Jesus' ministry are, come to me, you who labored, come. He says, then at the end, then he says, go out to all the world. But he says, first we have to come. He says, Bishop Sheen says this, in our world today we have too few come-comes and too many go-goes. We have to, I think he was saying this in the early 70s when go-go stuff was still in fashion, or at least had not been out of fashion for very long. But we look and we say, before we take action, we must first go to God in prayer. Through the intercession of Saints Simon and Jude, may we have the courage to go to prayer before we take action, to ask God, what is it that you want us to do? How is it you want me to act? Because sometimes He may say, I don't want you to do anything. I'm going to do something. And then you go along with it. So let us ask for that courage to be able to let go of the reins and go first to God in our troubles, in our trials, in our struggles, before we go to action.